Welcome to today's deep dive into the Russian Iceberg. On the surface, we'll explore the most well-known facts and stories, but as we descend, things get darker, more mysterious, and downright chilling. From historical events to obscure conspiracy theories and unsolved mysteries, this iceberg holds layers upon layers of fascinating, eerie, and mind-blowing topics. So grab a snack, get comfy, and join me as we journey into the depths of the unknown.
Siberia. Siberia is a vast region in Russia that stretches from the Ural Mountains in the west to the Pacific Ocean in the east, covering about 13.1 million square kilometers, known for its harsh climate. Much of Siberia experiences long, freezing winters and short summers, with large portions covered in tundra and taiga forests. Rich in natural resources like oil, gas, and minerals, it has been historically important for Russian industry, but its remoteness and extreme weather make it sparsely populated. Vodka. Vodka is a distilled alcoholic beverage traditionally made from fermented grains or potatoes, though modern varieties may use other ingredients. Originating in Eastern Europe, particularly Russia and Poland, it is celebrated for its neutral taste and high alcohol content, typically around 40%. Vodka is versatile, used both as a base for cocktails and consumed straight, often chilled or paired with meals in its countries of origin. Russia-Ukraine War. The Russo-Ukrainian War is an ongoing conflict that began in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea and its support for separatists in eastern Ukraine. The war escalated dramatically in February 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, resulting in widespread destruction, humanitarian crises, and international condemnation. Ukraine has resisted with significant military and civilian effort, receiving extensive support from Western nations in the form of weapons, aid, and sanctions against Russia. Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, officially the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was a socialist state that existed from 1922 to 1991, spanning Eastern Europe and Northern Asia. It was formed after the Russian Revolution of 1917 and was governed by the Communist Party, with Moscow as its capital. The USSR was a global superpower during the 20th century, playing a central role in World War II and the Cold War, as well as influencing global politics, economics, and culture. AK-47. The AK-47, or Kalashnikov, is a gas-operated, selective-fire assault rifle designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov in the Soviet Union in 1947. Known for its durability, simplicity, and low production cost, the AK-47 has become one of the most widely used firearms in the world, particularly in conflict zones. It is chambered for the 7.6 239 mm cartridge, offering a good balance of range and power. Largest country. The largest country in the world by land area is Russia, covering approximately 17.1 million square kilometers. It spans across Eastern Europe and Northern Asia, making up about 1/8 of the Earth's inhabited land area. Russia's vast size encompasses diverse climates, landscapes, and ecosystems, including tundra, forests, mountains, and deserts. Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is the president of Russia, serving in this role since 2000, with a brief interlude as prime minister from 2008 to 2012. A former KGB officer, he rose to power in the late 1990s and became known for consolidating power, reducing political opposition, and centralizing authority in the Kremlin. Putin's leadership has been marked by efforts to restore Russia's influence on the global stage, particularly through military interventions, such as the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Matryoshka doll. A matryoshka doll, also known as a Russian nesting doll, is a set of wooden dolls of varying sizes, each fitting inside the next. The traditional matryoshka doll is often painted in bright, colorful patterns, typically representing women in folk costumes. but can also feature other themes like animals or famous figures. These dolls originated in Russia in the late 19th century, inspired by Japanese nesting dolls, and quickly became a symbol of Russian culture. Gopnik. Gopnik is a stereotype in Russian and post-Soviet culture, referring to a specific subculture often associated with working-class youth, characterized by their fashion choices, behaviors, and attitudes. Gopniks are typically depicted wearing Adidas tracksuits, squatting on street corners, and often smoking, drinking, or engaging in petty criminal activities. The term has evolved into a symbol of a rebellious, anti-establishment lifestyle, though it is sometimes used humorously or ironically in popular culture. Dash cams. Dash cams are extremely common in Russia, largely due to the country's notorious traffic conditions and the widespread belief that they help protect drivers from fraud, accidents, and corruption. Many Russian drivers install dash cams in their vehicles to record road events, which has led to a significant number of viral videos showing bizarre or extreme incidents, such as road rage, accidents, or even encounters with wild animals. Dash cams have also become a tool to document interactions with law enforcement, as the recordings can be used as evidence in disputes or to expose corruption. Trans-Siberian Railway. The Trans-Siberian Railway is the longest railway line in the world, stretching over 9,000 kilometers across Russia, from Moscow in the west to Vladivostok on the Pacific Ocean in the east. It was constructed between 1891 and 1916 to connect the European part of Russia with its remote Far East regions, facilitating trade, travel, and military mobility. The railway passes through a diverse range of landscapes, including the Ural Mountains, Siberian forests, and the vast steppes, offering a unique and scenic travel experience. Squat dance. Squat dance, often associated with the Gopnik subculture in Russia and other post-Soviet countries, is a style of dance where participants squat down and move rhythmically, often to electronic or hip-hop music. Dance typically involves squatting with legs bent and feet flat on the ground, while the upper body remains upright or sways in sync with the beat. It is sometimes performed in a group setting, with dancers showing off their toughness or street credibility, and has become a symbol of the Gopnik's rebellious and gritty persona. Russian reversal. Russian reversal is a humorous language construct and a type of comedic trope popularized by comedian Yakov Smirnoff in the 1980s. It involves a satirical twist on the structure of English sentences, typically by reversing the expected order of subject and object, or by making exaggerated contrasts between life in the Soviet Union. A classic example of a Russian reversal is, in America, you can always find a party. In Soviet Russia, party finds you. Russian roulette. Russian roulette is a dangerous and potentially lethal game of chance, traditionally played with a revolver. The revolver is loaded with a single bullet and the other chambers are left empty, and players take turns spinning the cylinder, pointing the gun at their head, and pulling the trigger. The game's name reflects the idea of taking a high-stakes risk with the possibility of death as the outcome. Although it has been portrayed in films and literature as a form of bravado or reckless behavior, Russian roulette is extremely dangerous and should not be attempted, as it carries a significant risk of injury or death. Rasputin. Rasputin, born Grigory Yefimovich Rasputin, was a Russian mystic and self-proclaimed holy man who gained significant influence in the court of Tsar Nicholas II in the early 20th century. He became a close advisor to the royal family, particularly Tsarina Alexandra, who believed he could heal her son Alexei's hemophilia through spiritual powers. Rasputin's influence and controversial lifestyle, including allegations of debauchery and corruption, led to widespread distrust and resentment among nobles and the public. Tetris. Tetris is a classic puzzle video game created in 1984 by Russian software engineer Alexei Pajitnov. The game involves players arranging falling geometric shapes, called tetrominoes, into complete horizontal lines, which then disappear, preventing the screen from filling up. Its simple yet addictive gameplay quickly made Tetris a global phenomenon, becoming one of the best-selling and most iconic video games of all time. Gulag. The Gulag was a system of forced labor camps operated by the Soviet Union, primarily during Joseph Stalin's rule from the 1930s to the 1950s. It housed millions of prisoners, including political dissenters, intellectuals, ordinary criminals, and those accused of being enemies of the state, many of whom were subjected to harsh conditions, brutal treatment, and inadequate food. Sputnik. Sputnik was the first artificial Earth satellite, launched by the Soviet Union on October 4, 1957. Marked a major milestone in the space race, as it was the first human-made object to orbit the Earth, signaling the Soviet Union's entry into space exploration. The satellite was spherical, about the size of a beach ball, and transmitted radio signals back to Earth. Tchaikovsky. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was a renowned Russian composer, widely celebrated for his contributions to classical music. He is best known for his emotionally expressive symphonies, ballets, operas, and concertos, with famous works including Swan Lake, The Nutcracker, the 1812 Overture, and Piano Concerto No. 1. Tchaikovsky's music is known for its lyrical beauty, dramatic intensity, and rich orchestral textures, bridging the romantic style with unique emotional depth. Ivan the Terrible, or Ivan IV, was the first Tsar of Russia, reigning from 1547 until his death in 1584. He is known for centralizing power and transforming Russia into a multi-ethnic empire, but also for his brutal and tyrannical rule. Ivan's reign included significant military campaigns, including the conquest of Kazan and Astrakhan, expanding Russia's territory, but it was also marked by the Alyokhina, period of mass repression, executions, and widespread fear. Fyodor Dostoevsky was a Russian novelist, philosopher, and essayist, widely regarded as one of the greatest literary figures in history. His works explore deep psychological and existential themes, often delving into the nature of free will, morality, and human suffering. Some of his most famous novels include Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, The Idiot, and Notes from Underground, which grapple with complex characters and intense moral dilemmas. Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy was a renowned Russian writer, best known for his epic novels War and Peace and Anna Karenina. Born in 1828 into an aristocratic family, Tolstoy initially led a privileged life, but later underwent a profound spiritual and philosophical transformation, adopting Christian anarchism and advocating for nonviolence, simplicity, and social justice. His works are considered masterpieces of world literature, offering deep insights into human nature, morality, and society. MW 2019 controversy. Call of Duty: Modern Warfare sparked controversy for its depiction of certain events and themes, particularly related to its portrayal of real-world conflicts. One contentious issue was the Highway of Death mission, which many felt misrepresented the historical Gulf War incident, attributing the event to Russian forces rather than the US-led. Coalition. Critics also argued the game glorified militarism while oversimplifying complex geopolitical situations, particularly in its portrayal of the Middle East and Russian antagonists. Chechnya. Chechnya is a republic in the North Caucasus region of Russia, known for its turbulent history and diverse cultural heritage. It has been the center of two devastating wars in the 1990s and early 2000s, following efforts to gain independence from Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union. These conflicts resulted in widespread destruction, human rights abuses, and a significant loss of life, leaving a lasting impact on the region. Russian Mafia. The Russian Mafia, also known as the Bratva, is a collection of organized crime groups originating in Russia and other former Soviet states. Emerging prominently during the late Soviet era and gaining power after the USSR's collapse, these groups capitalized on the chaos of economic transition, engaging in activities such as extortion, smuggling, drug trafficking, and money laundering. Known for their strict codes of loyalty and brutal enforcement, Russian mafia groups often operate internationally, with influence extending to Europe, the US, and beyond. Tuvan Republic. The Tuva Republic, often referred to as Tuva, is a federal subject of Russia located in southern Siberia, near the border with Mongolia. It is known for its stunning landscapes, which include mountains, forests, and steppes, as well as for its rich cultural heritage rooted in Tuvan traditions, shamanism, and throat singing. Tuva was an independent state in the early 20th century before being annexed by the Soviet Union in 1944, and today it retains a distinct cultural identity within the Russian Federation. Igor Sikorsky. Igor Sikorsky was a pioneering Russian-American aviation engineer and inventor, best known for his groundbreaking work in helicopter design. Born in Kiev, Ukraine, he initially gained fame for designing the world's first four-engine aircraft before emigrating to the United States in 1919. In the U.S., Sikorsky founded the Sikorsky Aircraft Corporation, where he developed the first practical single-rotor helicopter, the VS-300, which became the foundation for modern helicopters. Cossacks. The Cossacks are a historically semi-nomadic militaristic community originating in the steppes of Eastern Europe, particularly in present-day Ukraine and southern Russia. Known for their independence and fierce warrior traditions, they played a significant role as frontier defenders of the Russian and Polish-Lithuanian states against invasions and uprisings. Cossacks developed distinct cultural practices, including democratic self-governance, vibrant folk traditions, and a strong emphasis on horsemanship and military prowess. Mysterious Russian soul. The mysterious Russian soul is a phrase used to describe the perceived depth, complexity, and enigmatic nature of Russian culture, character, and worldview. It reflects the way Russians are often thought to embrace extremes, passion and melancholy, resilience and fatalism, collectivism and individuality, shaped by their vast history and challenging environment. The concept is frequently explored in Russian literature, philosophy, and art, with writers like Dostoevsky and Tolstoy delving into the spiritual and emotional struggles of humanity. Kuril Islands. The Kuril Islands are a volcanic archipelago stretching between Japan's Hokkaido and Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, consisting of 56 islands. These islands are rich in natural resources and strategically important, but are at the center of a long-standing territorial dispute between Russia and Japan. Russia controls the islands, calling them the Southern Kurils, while Japan claims the southernmost four islands, referring to them as the Northern Territories. Closed cities. Closed cities, or Zato in Russian, are urban areas in Russia and other former Soviet states that are restricted to the general public. These cities were often established during the Soviet era for military, research, or industrial purposes, particularly related to nuclear weapons development or other sensitive projects. Access to these cities is tightly controlled, requiring special permits, and their locations were often omitted from maps or official documents. Chukchi. The Chukchi are an indigenous people of the Russian Far East, primarily inhabiting the Chukotka Peninsula and surrounding regions near the Arctic Ocean. Traditionally, they have relied on reindeer herding, fishing, and hunting marine mammals for their livelihood, adapting to the harsh Arctic climate. The Chukchi have a rich cultural heritage, including oral storytelling, shamanistic practices, and distinctive art forms, such as carving and clothing design. Kursk disaster. The Kursk disaster refers to the sinking of the Russian nuclear-powered submarine K-141 Kursk during a naval exercise in the Barents Sea on August 12, 2000. The disaster was caused by an explosion in one of the submarine's torpedoes, which ignited a catastrophic fire and secondary explosions, ultimately sinking the vessel. All 118 crew members aboard were killed, with some surviving for several hours in a sealed compartment before succumbing to suffocation or drowning. Genndy Tartakovsky. Genndy Tartakovsky is a Russian-American animator, director, and producer, celebrated for his innovative work in television animation. Born in Moscow in 1970, he immigrated to the United States as a child and later studied animation at the California Institute of the Arts. Tartakovsky is best known for creating iconic shows like Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and Star Wars. Clone Wars, all of which are praised for their distinctive art styles, compelling storytelling, and dynamic action sequences. The Russian Sleep Experiment. The Russian Sleep Experiment is a popular urban legend and creepypasta that tells the story of a horrific Soviet-era experiment in which test subjects were kept awake for 15 days using a gas stimulant. Over time, the subjects supposedly descended into madness, self-mutilation, and cannibalism, eventually becoming unrecognizable monsters. The tale is entirely fictional, created as a piece of internet horror, but it gained widespread attention due to its disturbing imagery and the eerie plausibility of unethical experiments during the Cold War. The Romanov family. The Romanov family was the ruling dynasty of Russia from 1613 until the Russian Revolution in 1917, spanning over 3 centuries. The family came to power with Mikhail Romanov and saw notable rulers such as Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, who significantly expanded and modernized the Russian Empire. Their reign ended with Tsar Nicholas II, who abdicated during the February Revolution of 1917 amidst widespread unrest, leading to the establishment of a provisional government. In 1918, Nicholas II and his immediate family were executed by Bolsheviks, marking a tragic end to the Romanov dynasty and ushering in the Soviet era. Radioactive lighthouses. Radioactive lighthouses, often referred to as atomic lighthouses, are unmanned navigational beacons powered by radioisotope thermoelectric generators. These lighthouses were primarily built during the Soviet era along remote Arctic coastlines, where traditional power sources and maintenance were impractical. The RTGs used radioactive isotopes, such as strontium-90, to generate heat, which was then converted into electricity to power the lighthouse. Anatoly Moskvin. Anatoly Moskvin is a Russian historian and linguist who gained international notoriety in 2011 when it was discovered that he had exhumed the bodies of at least 26 young girls and preserved them in his home, dressing them as dolls. Known as the Russian doll maker, Moskvin reportedly had a fascination with cemeteries and death, claiming he collected the bodies out of a desire to preserve them and because he was lonely. He lived in Nizhny Novgorod, and his disturbing activities went unnoticed for years due to his quiet lifestyle and intellectual reputation. Russia owns Antarctica. Antarctica is governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, an international agreement signed in 1959 and entered into force in 1961. The treaty designates Antarctica as a region dedicated to peace, science, and environmental preservation, prohibiting military activity and territorial claims during its duration. Pole Pharmacy. Pole Pharmacy is a historic pharmacy located in St. Petersburg, known for its architectural significance and rich history. Founded in 1798, it was later acquired by Karl Pohl, a pharmacist and chemist, whose family managed it and contributed to its prominence. The pharmacy became famous for its advanced pharmaceutical preparations and elegant interiors, showcasing intricate woodwork, stained glass, and period furnishings. The Perm Death Hour. I couldn't find the specific incident relating to this, but it could be relating to this. On September 20th, 2021, a tragic shooting occurred at Perm State University, where a gunman, an 18-year-old student, opened fire on campus, killing 6 people and injuring many others. students and staff fled or barricaded themselves, while law enforcement intervened, eventually neutralizing the attacker. So, that was the end of the Russia iceberg. Now, since my US iceberg did well, decided to make this now. So thanks for watching and subscribe for more videos like this. Bye.